There is no need to talk of the destiny of the Albanian monuments in Armenia when the Albanian monuments in Azerbaijan underwent such an aggression. It was the Albanian cloisters in Armenia which became the first victims of the Armenianization process. Armenians who misappropriated the Albanian Christian legacy aimed to destroy the Muslim cultural examples of the Azerbaijanis in different ways. The origins of the process also date back to the early 19th century, to the resettlement of the Armenians from Iran and Turkey to the Azerbaijani territories by Russia. The words of Shavrov, a Russian official who was directly involved in the resettlement process, are also evidence of this historical reality. He wrote about the resettlement of more than 1 million Armenians to the Caucasus by the Tsar administration from 1828 to 1911. According to Russian and Armenian sources, which confirm the seemingly never-ending resettlement process, the Caucasus received about 350,000 Armenians from 1914 to 1916. As for the Azerbaijanis in these territories, they were driven out of their native lands stage by stage. The comparison of the statistic data of the early 19th and the early 20th centuries indicates clearly that the number of Armenians in Yerevan province increased by 26.6 times due to resettlement, whereas the number of the indigenous Azerbaijani population, which formed the majority up to the occupation of the province in 1828 by Russia, increased by a mere 4.6 times. Removing the traces of the Azerbaijanis from this territory had been turned into one of the main duties of the first Armenian state in the Caucasus. The state was established in 1918 with an area of 8,000 to 10,000 square kilometers, with Yerevan town as its center, which was conceded by Azerbaijan to serve as a capital. With the success of their policy of ethnic cleansing against Azerbaijanis in 1918 to 1920, Armenians could continue to pursue their aims in the Soviet period. The autonomous oblast status granted to the mountainous part of Karabakh inside Azerbaijan in 1921 under pressure from Stalin, and the expansion of the territories which they had achieved through the so-called Sovietization were not enough for the Armenians. In order to please them, Stalin realized the policy of deportation of the Azerbaijanis with his decree of December 23, 1947. 100,000 Azerbaijanis were resettled from Armenia to Azerbaijan in 1948 to 1950, and Armenians from abroad were allocated the evacuated houses. Armenia, which gradually expanded to 29,800 square kilometers at the expense of Azerbaijani territories and received about 230,000 Armenians from abroad between 1921 and 1973, did not retract its demands of the inclusion of Karabakh under the pretext of claims on the mountainous part and Nakhchivan in Armenia. Concerning the Azerbaijanis who remained in Armenia, the ethnic cleansing was concluded with the next and final deportation stage, which started in 1988 and ended in 1991 with the expulsion of Nuvadi village in the Mehri district within 1 day. Along with ethnic cleansing, the process of removing the place names of Azerbaijani origin was also underway. This process began in the early 19th century and almost concluded with the law of December 1, 1995 of the Republic of Armenia. As for Azerbaijani monuments, only 2 of the mosques could survive until 1988. One of them, Göy Mosque, had been turned into the Yerevan Museum of History and underwent so-called restoration after 1991 and is now presented as a Persian mosque. The Denribulakh Mosque was razed to the ground and its street was named from Nerimanov into Verdanans. Of our architectural mansions in Yerevan, the house of Panakhan, which was first used as a hotel, was later turned into a residential building and geological laboratory. Another exquisitely beautiful hotel demonstrating the greatness of Azerbaijani architects was destroyed in the 1970s. The houses of the Azerbaijanis and the large gardens surrounding them were destroyed, and a monument for so-called genocide victims was built in their place. Only the houses of Ismail, Ahmed and Habib brothers in the lower part of this monument survived until 1970, and these were then also confiscated by force. The building of the Armenian parliament was constructed upon the Azerbaijani Children's Cemetery in Yerevan. The Azerbaijani women's cemetery was left under the central department store in the hospital. As for the third Azerbaijani cemetery in Yerevan, located on the way from the railway station to the Tokhmakh-Vardavari lake, it too was desecrated. Also the sacred cemetery of Aradede in Arara province, sacred Arbullah cemetery in Lori province, Gehi in Sunik, Gülübulak in Shirak, Gölkent, Shorja, and many other Azerbaijani cemeteries in Gekarkunik and other provinces became victims of Armenian barbarism. Unfortunately, this policy pursued by Armenia hasn't received the attention it deserves, and has certainly not been condemned by the international community. The occupying Armenian state, which is unlikely to be punished for its deeds, wasn't satisfied with displacing the indigenous population of these territories, but continues the strategy of removing every sign of the historical roots of the Azerbaijanis, who lived and thrived on this land for centuries.